Root Letter is a visual novel adventure game published and developed by Kadokawa Games in Japan. In the rest of the world, it was published by P-Cube. Initially released in Japan on June 16th of 2016 for the PS4 and PlayStation Vita, it released later that same year in North America and Europe. The following year, it seen a worldwide release on PC followed by a mobile port of the game for Android and iOS in Japan only. At the onset of the game, our main character Takayuki Nakamura is cleaning his office as he gets ready for a move. You can name your character yourself, but I stuck with the default name. As he's cleaning, he discovers a letter he had never read before from an old pen pal named Aya Fumino. This letter is 15 years old and confesses to a murder. Shocked and perplexed by this confession, Takayuki gathers up all the letters he ever received from her and boards a train to Matsue City, the place he believes Aya to have been living. When he arrives, he finds her old home address is no longer a home at all. It's a vacant lot and has been ever since a fire destroyed the house 15 years prior. Digging even deeper, he discovers that Aya Fumino is the name of a student from Matsue High School that has apparently been dead for 25 years. A good 10 years before they ever started sending letters to each other. Dedicated to getting to the bottom of this mysterious situation, Takayuki attempts to find Aya's old friends and classmates, but he only has nicknames from her letters to work off of. What he finds is that nobody wants to admit to knowing the girl Aya Fumino 15 years ago, and nobody exactly wants to admit to the nicknames she knew them by either. Surely they all know something, but getting the truth out of them is not an easy task. From here, the game plays out in chapters as you use all of the letters Aya ever sent to you to identify her friends one by one and fill in the truth of what happened to Aya one confession at a time. Root Letter employs many mechanics you wouldn't find in more straightforward visual novels. To begin with, you do have a little bit of agency. This game is set in Matsue, Japan, and most of the areas you visit do truly exist. While on your investigation, you can access a world map and visit many areas in Matsue and get a general feel for the culture of the area and learn a new thing or two at your leisure. Using the check feature, each screen and area can be examined like a point-and-click adventure game. This is a great way to learn more about your surrounding area and to find clues to solving the various mysteries of the game. The guidebook as well can give you a bit of history or help you discover new places. If you're ever unsure of what to do, the think command is there to help you out. While it's sometimes necessary to use this to progress the story, it is mostly just there to give you hints. During an investigation, from time to time, you will find yourself in debate with people you suspect are Aya's old friends. To win in these debates, you'll need to be cunning and ask the right questions at the right times, and present evidence from your inventory to back them into a corner. When things get really heated, Tadayuki will use something he calls Max Mode, which is really just his ability to be a little more persuasive than most people. Pay attention to this radial meter here as it cycles through dialogue options and pick the one you think will weigh the scales of debate in your favor. Sometimes these debates can get a little messy and suffer from something I refer to as Danganronpa syndrome. Quite often you know what needs to be done, but none of the options are distinct or direct enough to feel like they are the right choice. Or worse yet, sometimes they all seem to say the same thing, with slight differences in the intensity of their wording. To a degree, I feel like this could be a translation issue, but I can't be too certain. As you discover Aya's old friends, there's always brief, touching moments as they reminisce of the girl they used to know, while insisting there was never anybody named Aya Fumino. The game is peppered throughout with touching, bittersweet moments, but by the end of the first playthrough, it's hard to feel like all the smoke and mirrors, the mystery and the secrets were really warranted, and the game ends without much fanfare. This is because additional endings and the best endings are locked behind additional playthroughs. As you read through Aya's old letters, you generate responses that you would have given to her 15 years ago. The routes in this game are tied to the responses you give Aya in the old letters, but not all of the responses are available from the get-go. When you beat the game, additional responses are added, and new routes can be completed. I'm not really a fan of this kind of structure for the true endings, but for what it's worth, going through the game again for the sole purpose of additional endings shouldn't take more than 2 hours if you're willing to use the force skip feature, although use it wisely. The game itself is around 10 hours long, and if you go for all of the routes, you can probably do it in under 20. The characters in the game are really fleshed out and multifaceted, but how many of them you like will be up to you as they are quite the diverse cast. Some of them are almost intentionally unlikable, save for a few glimmering rays of hope. The main character, personally, I found a little hard to like. The investigation he's on is very interesting, but he himself has some issues. He's peppy, but he has a hubris that leads him to doing things I would consider extremely abhorrent. At times, his methods for solving the mystery border on psychological torture and interrogation. Putting myself in the shoes of a character who often comes off as this reckless, self-centered, maniacal, possibly neurotic individual just didn't quite resonate with me. But it all culminates to an intriguing mystery with fun twists and turns, some truly funny moments and references, and a uniquely comforting feeling of being part of this small town, although you are only there on vacation. This game is only voiced in Japanese, and while the cast isn't exactly great, as they often fail to deliver the intensity presented by the dialogue, they do a fine enough job. The translation is okay at best. Sometimes sentence structures are a little funny, and other times the typos are just too obvious to ignore. The interface for the game is wonderful and stylized. There's constantly something moving on screen, whether it be the character profiles, the animated border, or the effect filters they put over the screen. Although these things are small, it feels more like you're interacting with something alive and responsive than a general kinetic novel would otherwise. The music, much like the sound effects, is also nothing special. The tunes all fill out the game nicely, but due to a lack of originality or memorable hooks, they will not leave a lasting impression. While the game does have some pitfalls, it is a visual novel I would recommend. More than I recommend it for the mystery, I recommend it to experience the characters and Matsue. That's not to say the mystery isn't good, it is, and it's likely it will choke you up at times. But there was just something refreshing about exploring this town and getting to know its residents. The more involved I got with it, the more I enjoyed going to shops and restaurants and seeing the smiling faces of the townsfolk day in and day out. In my experience, small countryside towns can be very accommodating to strangers, and I think that feeling of being accommodated to was just comforting, and made playing this feel a little more like I went to a real place and met real people. All in all, Root Letter was a great experience. It has some weak spots, but it has many redeeming qualities to outshine them. There is better visual novels for sure, but there are far more worse ones. And this one is definitely worth the time of day if you want to sit back and get wrapped up in a small town with a big mystery. And that's all I'm going to say on Root Letter, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you found it helpful at all, you know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe, share if you can. Links to socials are in the description. And as always, folks, thanks for watching. Tastes like shit.